Iranian representatives have met with European powers in Istanbul to discuss the Islamic Republic's nuclear program. It's the first discussions since the 12-day war between Iran and Israel back in June.
Well, earlier I spoke to Roxanne Farman-Fahmian, and she is a political analyst with the University of Cambridge, and I asked her what she made of the fact that all parties had now agreed to continue their discussions.
Well, I think keeping any kind of diplomatic discussion open about issues as grave as nonproliferation and sanctioning another state is good news. I don't know if it really indicates that they have found any kind of meeting of minds, but I do think that it's very good that the Europeans and the Iranians are speaking because it gives some indication that there is still room for talk.
Well, the Europeans have now given Iran until, I think it's August, to comply with demands over curbing their nuclear activities, allowing monitoring of their nuclear program as well. Otherwise, they face the threat of snapback sanctions. For those of us who have been following this story, we know Iran is already under very strict sanctions so far. What would further sanctions do?
Well, at the time that the Iran deal, the JCPOA, was signed, the UN had a full regime of sanctions against Iran, and those were lifted at the time that the JCPOA was agreed. So this would mean bringing back international sanctions. What Iran has on it now are U.S. sanctions. There are several other sets of sanctions that it has upon it, but it does not have international and European sanctions on it as a general program. And that's what a snapback would bring.
Right. So at the heart of the matter, of course, is Tehran insisting on its sovereign right to have a nuclear program, they say primarily for energy production. Do you hold much hope of progress for these rounds of talks that we're now seeing?
Well, I think that there are two issues here. First of all, we see that there were talks in progress at the time between Washington and Iran being moderated and mediated by Oman at the very moment that Israel decided to attack Iran and, in a sense, sabotage those talks. And this, of course, was an attack that was then backed up by the United States on the premise that by hitting militarily the Iranian program, they could wipe it out. Well, subsequently, we see that there are several outcomes of that action. Firstly, the talks have been stymied, indeed, but the nuclear program has not been very badly damaged. And what we do see is that there are over 60 kilograms of very highly enriched in uranium that Iran has, probably untouched by the attacks, but we don't know anything further about those. And the problem is that at the very time that the Israeli attack took place, there were inspections taking place. Those inspectors were ousted by Iran at the time of the attack. So we have no oversight now and no knowledge about what is happening on the ground. And so far, the only mechanism that we have found as an international community to obtain that information is through diplomatic arrangements with Iran to ensure that the what's called the IAEA, or the nuclear watchdog, does send in its inspections. And just to add some perspective on this, they were completing what was almost reaching their 200th inspection this year. Last year, they did 493 inspections of Iran. Right. It is the most highly inspected country in the world by a long shot. And so by cutting off their access to Iran, we are truly not in a good position to see what is going to happen to this program.
Now, just during the 12-day conflict, there had been talk of possible regime change in Iran. That was welcomed in some circles within the country. Would that have reverberated through the government, through Iran's government?
Well, I think that was in many ways a good example of where the information about Iran is often misrepresented abroad and where information inside Iran is not able to be well expressed abroad. Because I think what we saw, in contrast to what was projected about regime change, was a rise in national fervor and probably the strongest support for the government that we have seen since the revolution, since the government took over in 45 years ago. And for those of us who watch Iran, this did not come as a surprise. It is a country that has weathered over the millennia a great deal of attack from abroad. It's a central country between peoples that move back and forth, east and west, north and south. And one of the reasons why it still is a country is that it has a strong sense of national identity.